So in today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 points for the Chargers' upcoming season. Of course, Friday we do take on the Kansas City Chiefs in Brazil, and that's going to be the start of the season. And I want to give you guys my thoughts on a couple of things that have been just sort of talked about the Chargers lately. And the first one is going to be making the playoffs. So I think everyone expects the Chargers to make the playoffs, and the odds back that up at minus 130. Last season, the Bolts were at plus 100. That's an easy line. The Chargers will make the playoffs as long as Justin Herbert is healthy. I think the roster is much more improved, and Jim Harbaugh every year as a coach just takes that next step. I know I say it all the time, but when he was with the Niners, he took over a pretty subpar team, and then of course he had them in the NFC Championship, and then they got to the Super Bowl. Back in 2011, which we'll talk about in my next point, is Jim Harbaugh won Coach of the Year, and I do think he's. In my opinion, last season, the Chargers, they won 11 games. The year before that, they won 5. So they more than doubled their win total. And obviously, they can't double 11 wins, but they can get up to 14 wins. They can get up to 15 wins. The Chiefs did it last year. We saw the Lions and how successful they were. The Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, I believe they won 14 games. I think they went 14-3. I think the Chargers could be in that same situation. Everything would have to go right. Injuries certainly could be on the table. That would limit the Chargers' ceiling. But if this team's able to stay healthy, they've got a defense that can match up with any offense. And then offensively for the Bolts, which was the issue last season, they did bring in Mekhi Becton. Certainly losing Rashawn Slater didn't help. But I could see leaps happening from Zion Johnson and Bradley Bozeman. They were some of the worst offensive linemen last season. So as long as they improve, the O-line will be a lot better. And it's not just the Ladd McConkey show anymore because you draft Trey Harris, you draft Keandre Lambert-Smith, you go out and you get Tyler Conklin, who's a possession catch guy, bringing back Keenan Allen. Last season, towards the end of the year, Allen was able to get going, and he's still a good route runner, catches the football. He's got that chemistry with Herbert. To me, though, the biggest piece to the offense is Omarion Hampton. You don't use a first-round pick on a running back for no reason. It's no longer 20, 30 years ago. Running backs nowadays are catching the ball out of the backfield. They're able to be playmakers. And I just look at Hampton, and I think he's going to pretty comfortably go over 800 yards, which right now 850.5 is his line. And he's expected to hit that. It wouldn't be shocking if he did. But I think we could be looking at a 1,000-yard rushing season for Hampton. And probably also Najee Harris. Very similar to the Lions a couple seasons ago when they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and they brought in David Montgomery. That's the NFL nowadays. You need two backs that can sort of split the workload, and the Chargers are using the same formula from the Lions. And the Ravens just didn't have that. They had Lamar, who was their best runner, but that's why the Ravens went out and got Derrick Henry last season. And the Chargers, they used their first-round pick on Hampton, and we talked about that before the draft. I'm a guy who every single day is reading about the Chargers, watching content, consuming it, and I just would not have been surprised in that moment if the Bolts did use a first-round pick on a running back. I personally wanted Ashton Jenney, but he went way ahead of the Chargers' pick, so they ended up getting Omarion Hampton, and I wouldn't even say they settled. I mean, yeah, Jenney was a Heisman candidate, but Hampton's electric. And what he's going to bring out of this backfield is something the Bolts just didn't have last season. Austin Ekeler was he was dealing with injuries. He was kind of getting up there, and you knew it was going to slow down, and it certainly did last season for Washington when he was there. I mean, he's still a solid player. But the Chargers, they need that 3-down back, and to bring in Harris to sort of keep him fresh because the regular season doesn't really matter. If the Chargers just get into the playoffs, that's fine. But you want to make sure that your young back is protected and is going to be healthy come playoff time. Because these running backs, when they're on those rookie deals and they're young, that's when you get the most out of them. And there's no sense to just run Hampton to the ground and have him be gassed by the playoffs workload. And, Hampton, was getting basically every touch in college, but he's not getting hit by NFL defensive players. And just the speed and the pace of the game, it's just going to be a lot different. So I like what the Chargers have done, man. I really do. I don't think it's smart nowadays to just draft a running back. And the New York Giants, for example, these types of teams, when they drafted Saquon and other examples, I can't really think of at the top of my head, but it's just you need two backs, man. All the top teams have two backs that they can rely on. And most of them as well also have a QB that can carry the ball, like Mahomes, Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar. Like these are athletic, mobile quarterbacks who can easily pull the ball on an option and take it the distance. Ladd McConkey over 6.5 receiving touchdowns plus 100. A little surprised on this. I mean, last season Ladd definitely had over that. I'm gonna look that up right now. Yeah, Ladd McConkey had 7 touchdowns, so he went over it. He just beat it, but I don't know why McConkey would regress in that sense. If anything, he's going to benefit off of having more receivers around him. I think the Chargers are going to push the ball down the field more. And McConkey, even though the game plan is always going to be to take him out of it, as we saw against Houston, it really didn't matter. I mean, he absolutely lit up that Texans secondary and dominated. So, yeah, I think McConkey, probably has 8 or 9 touchdowns. I mean, it's not going to be – I don't think it's going to be in the double digits necessarily because down in the red zone, the Chargers are going to look for some other guys. But McConkey is going to separate. In his first touchdown, he made a couple of guys miss. And as soon as he makes that cut, I mean, he's gone. So I like McConkey. And one of the picks I hit on the head, too, because I scouted him, and I really liked him as a prospect. And I had him as a first-round, easily a first-round grade. And he went into the second round, and the Chargers were the beneficiary of that. Justin Herbert, over 22.5 passing touchdowns. This is interesting. Now, Herbert's only ever gone below this once in his career, and it's because he played in 13 games that season. Last season, Herbert, which was his first year in the Greg Roman offense, he had 23 touchdowns. I just think Herbert was incredibly efficient, but the Chargers didn't really push the ball down the field, and they sort of relied through their defense and time of possession and things like that. And I don't think that's going to change. I mean, I don't think Herbert's going to throw for 35, 40 touchdowns. That's not going to happen in Greg Roman's offense. But I do think Herbert will pretty comfortably crush this just because there's so many more reliable options to be able to throw. And there's just going to be pressure off of Herbert as well with this running attack. There's more talent on the team is kind of what it comes down to. And, yeah, I'd probably have Herbert throwing around 27, 28 touchdowns, and he'll probably throw 5 picks, something like that. Very good ratio. The Bolts don't want to be a team that just airs it out like the Bengals or something like that. You just want to balance it out, and because it's just how you win. Teams that are good in the NFL nowadays are run-first teams. You look at the Lions are more of a balanced type of team, but the Lions and the Ravens and the Eagles, all these teams obviously can run the ball, and they prefer to run the ball, and then if they have to throw it, they will. So I think that's what the Chargers should continue to do. And last season, they did run all over bad teams, but then the good teams came, and they kind of got in obvious passing situations, and that's when they get into trouble. Justin Herbert's incredible. I think he's a top 5 quarterback, but he's not the type of guy that you just want dropping back the entire game and trying to be a hero. You want to be methodical, and that's why I like Greg Roman. He's just so good at calling up these run plays, and now that he's got in what we hope to be a better interior offensive line, at least. I mean, you're not going to get better on the outside with Pipkins over Slater, but you're hoping that the interior is able to hold up more because, everyone talks about Greg Roman, but what is he supposed to do? And the offensive line wasn't good. There wasn't really a playmaker out of the backfield. I mean, to this point, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, that was never going to succeed. And the Chargers were handicapped financially. Now that they had a little bit more open up, they were able to get Harris and Hampton. So, yeah, I mean, do I think Jim Harbaugh is going to win Coach of the Year? I don't know. I mean, I'm not I don't even bet on sports, but if I were to bet, I would like those odds because if the Chargers do get to 14 wins, if the Chargers go 14-3, Harbaugh's a lock. He's definitely a lock. He took a team that was 5 wins to 11 to 14. I mean, he's got to win that. Chargers are making the playoffs. The only way they wouldn't make it is if Trey Lance got injured. Or if Justin Herbert got injured and Trey Lance was forced to come in. I still think the Chargers would be competitive, but with their schedule being more difficult than last season, they wouldn't make the playoffs with Trey Lance. They're not beating Denver, they're not beating Washington, Minnesota. They're not beating those teams without Justin Herbert. That's ridiculous. So, but I still think they'd be competitive. We tune in, but Herbert is the key here, and we saw that he struggled against the Texans and they weren't able to win. Was it all his fault? No. A lot of pressure and no run game. But still, yeah. So Herbert will throw over 22.5 passing touchdowns. McConkey will go over 6.5. I legitimately, honestly believe all 4 of these will happen. Like Jim Harbaugh, man, the best is yet to come for him and the Bolts. The fact that the Chargers won 11 games last season were in it until the end, until a wild card against Houston. It's a tough place to go play with that defense and that pass rush. D'Amico Ryans, we know what he brings coming over from the Niners. He's a really good coach. Yeah, I have full faith in the Chargers, and a lot of it as well is I need to see it to believe it. Like, don't get me wrong here. For all we know, the Chargers could just lose 21-10 against the Chiefs, and it's like, oh, here we go again. But something tells me that things are about to change. They have to eventually. The Chiefs, it feels like the Chiefs have, how many, I don't know how many years in a row the Chiefs have won this division, but I read something the other day that the Broncos haven't won the division, I think it was like 10 or 12 years. So it just feels like to me this is the year where a team will overthrow the Chiefs. It's just, will it be the Chargers or will it be the Broncos? I think the Raiders will be kind of a sneaky team. But I don't think the Raiders are like a double-digit win team by any means. But I think the Chargers, they've always been right there, and they've been building this the right way, and they have the quarterback. Bo Nix is a good young quarterback, but Justin Herbert, he's one of the few quarterbacks that can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes. Like, he's got the arm and the ability. It's just who's around him. And I think the Chargers have put enough around Herbert to be able to win a Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Herbert. He was not good against the Jags in the wild card. He was not good against the Texans. He's got to have that big game. And Herbert always in the regular season dominates. But come playoff time, he's got to be able to play his best football, or at least play the same level of football as in the regular season.